Hello, Corina.
There you go.
Okay,
You
there
loud
we
and
are.
clear.
Okay, right. Good afternoon to all our. Let me just switch my video. There we are. Okay, let's start again. Good afternoon to all our SAIAshare attendees. On behalf of SAIA Practice, a joyous spring welcome to all. We trust you will enjoy the program with us this afternoon. My name is Eugene Barnard. I'll be your host. I am pleased to introduce you to SAIA's new practice executive, Maria Bashini. Welcome aboard SAIA Practice, Maria. Also, welcome to Corina Gibson once again from ECPD, our cool-headed SAIAshare organizer. Thank you once again also to our generous sponsors, Plascon, for making it possible for us to present this free of charge. Once again, please participate in the event by posting questions or comments in the questions box during and after we've had our presentations. In session two at least, Andre Krieger from the firm 255 Architects will be addressing the topic, the challenge and the opportunity of Uxolo, a project in the Cape Town city centre. We welcome Marie Luzolo. He's the founder and principal of Atelier Muse, and I believe that he's addressing us from the DRC, if I'm not mistaken. A warm welcome to you, Marie. With over 10 years of experience across various firms in South Africa and overseas, Marie has worked on architectural projects in over 15 countries across the world. He is collaborating with teams from international firms, amongst others BIG, Big, and Morphosis. Marie holds a master's degree in architecture from the University of the Witwatersrand and a degree in marketing and communications strategies for architecture and design from Y Academy. He is a part-time lecturer of interior design and environmental design at Inscape and is involved in the architectural design studio program at the university in Lubumbashi. His topic is architecture as brand manifestation, the case of Silk FAW. Once again, welcome Marie, and it's over to you.
Hello everyone, my name is Marie Luzolo and I will be presenting today a branding and architectural collaboration project developed with Morphosis for the company Silk FAW. A quick introduction about the workshop. This was organized by Academy and really it was aimed at creating a set of experience centers concepts that would incorporate the brand identity and values. There were 3 teams for 3 experience centers only in the world. One was Mad Architect for Beijing, AMD Circle for Milan, and Morphosis, of which I was a part of, for Los Angeles. This project was presented at Milan Design Week in 2022. And no, although the manifestation at the end is architecture, this was firmly a concept project, a brand manifestation idea. Let's start by talking about the companies. So Silk FAW was established in 2020 as a joint venture between Silk EV, an American automotive engineering and design company, and FAW, which is none other than China's largest automotive manufacturer. And among its mission, one important one was the plan to create a state-of-the-art design hub in the Motor Valley in Italy for the development of their flagship line. So cars under that lineup would have elements of American, Chinese, and Italian DNA. And the first car to introduce the vision of the company was a Silk 4 S9 electric hypercar. This was to be at the heart of our experience center concept. And then we have the Fashion Research Italy Foundation, which was established in 2015 by Alberto Mazzotti with the aim of promoting the Made in Italy culture. Among its missions, the FFRI aims at the conservation of textile designs in either digital or print formats, and then dispose of a very large archive collection of print which we were encouraged to use in the design of the Experience Center. We started our process by looking into brand ethos, and there were three main values we decided to leverage on. Those were sustainability, which we interpreted as notions of consciousness and well-being, and implemented through applications of local materials and tunable lights. Multiculturalism, implemented through the way the Experience Center was anchored in its context and was designed to foster communities. And finally, innovation, through the use of innovative materials and how we'd imagine the seamless integration of technology. The site we were given was Los Angeles, but that was it. It was up to us to design and decide where in Los Angeles this center would make perfect sense. So we first look at some of the things that make Los Angeles particular and retain the following. The rooftops and sundowners for the dramatic sunsets the city offers. Boulevards and high streets for the palm trees lined boulevards and retail strips which are so typical of Los Angeles. The outdoor culture. LA is only a drive away from a multitude of outdoor activity spots. And finally, a stage to live in. LA is, after all, the home of Hollywood, the cinema culture and everything it implies. The exact location of the center wasn't given though, so we looked at particularly the Rodeo Drive precinct, which is a high shopping streets district in Beverly Hills. With all the exclusive brands, we felt that the center would feel particularly at home here. However, there was an interesting fact that none of the current stores on Rodeo Drives are automotive brands. Most were fashion brands. The typology of the buildings that we found over here were typically 2 stories buildings with access to a rooftop terrace. So we call our concept inhabiting temporal grounds. And then we define those temporal grounds as those states of trance that one goes through during the process of conception. The first one would be essentially introspection. The second one, we imagine it to be creation itself. And then the final one, we would imagine it to be the presentation phase and sharing phase. And then we looked at a process of abstraction and extrapolation using some of the key elements that were provided by the brands, namely the car and the logo. Where the car is a concrete element, we looked at abstracting it, and the logo being more of an abstraction itself, we looked at extrapolating it into a physical space that could be inhabited. And finally, overlaying those ideas, we propose a space that reimagine the various levels of the structure we have as a temporal grounds we hypothesized, and then visitors is the dynamic and active observers of those events. Our design response was then to create 3 main areas. On the ground floor, the event area with public lounge, dining, and a show kitchen. On the upper floor, a working and meeting area, and on the rooftop, more of a social area. On the middle level, we propose activity pods inspired by the idea of the S9 wheel in motion, with a subtle insinuation of speed and distortion. And in the heart of the space, inspired by the S9 logo, we propose an elevating structure which, more than just a lift shaft, would really be a platform that became part of the level it happened to be in at any given time. But this also meant that being on this structure, coming up this structure was very much, the visitor was very much kept part of the action, both visually and physically. The floor plan layout was for the most part open on ground floor. Specific activity zones such as the business lounge, the dining area, the open tasting kitchen, and the car display were demonstrated through changing floor finishes. A Californian oak screen was designed toward the back to screen the ablution facilities and emergency staircase. Upstairs, the layout was more radical. We imagined this level would be completely hanging off the slab above. Individual pods were imagined for various activities, such as hot desking, meetings, and car configuration, and they were connected by a glass platform which housed lounge seating, allowing one to experience the void around and the level below. And finally, the rooftop was imagined as an open, dry garden, very much in the spirit of the deserts that one would find in California, with some built-in furniture as impact and articulation points. Is a view of how the space would start to appear from the ground level, and how the suspended pods will become projection screens where digital mapping would replace traditional TV screens. Even the car displayed in the middle of the floor was imagined to double as simulation area with possible mapping on windscreens, windows, and sound creation through speakers to simulate the idea of a moving car, even though the car would be static on the floor. And this is a view of the suspended level overlooking the ground floor below. So going further, we layer the space with the idea of imagining the rooftop is a natural plane where the primary focus was to experience the city. Here the building became a backdrop. The middle level is an engineered plane where the space was creating its own material identity. And finally, the ground level is more of an organic plane where occupiers and activities would define the identity of the space. The interior edge of the building acted as topographical anchor, and then the outer edge is a filter for daylights during the day and interior lights at night. And the material selection included LED ceiling light bulbs, tunable so that part of the ceiling could be switched off or on depending on what the needs of the room was. Aluminium foam for the exterior edge, an ode to the aluminium chassis of the S9 car. Prints on the inside of the activity pods and odes to the various patterns and prints of the FFRI. Carbon fiber cables for the suspension of the middle floor and odes to the carbon fiber body of the car. Fabric around the pods and odes to the upholstery of the car. And finally, Californian black oak for the interior backdrop and odes to the context of California. Selecting the prints to be used was done in collaboration with the FFRI. We had established keywords that were in line with our concepts and together browsed the vast collection to select what we believed to be the most appropriate ones. And those were then used as explained on the inside of the pods to give each of them character and identity. And finally, we were expecting to design some furniture pieces that would incorporate the prints of the FFRI. We proposed these three pieces, which were each various interpretation of fabric qualities in space. There was an armchair, a high table for the co-working area, and then a dining table for the dining room downstairs. And a quick look at how we imagine assembling this pod, with the hanging pods obviously delimiting the area directly beneath it. And finally, an impression of the building facade through the filter of the aluminium foam screen and how the activity inside would be subtly perceived from the people walking walking past outside, and then how it would also start to filter the light, and at various time of the day, let the sun color activate, and how the space will be experienced in terms of tones. Yes. Thank you.
Oh, Marie, we've really been treated to two exceptional presentations today, two inspirational presentations, and my sincere gratitude to you. I love the graphics and the way you presented this, and it was interesting learning about the manufacturers as well, and the collaboration, and just the approach to this hypothetical project. Fascinating. It's worth waiting for. So let's have the Plascon video, and then we get back to Andre.
Ever wondered why we've remained leaders of the coatings business for more than 130 years? We are committed to serving you with excellence. Our ability to innovate and push the envelope through our consistent product development is second to none. We're super excited to bring you our new hygienic and aesthetically pleasing floor coating range, which is suitable for food environment, manufacturing, warehousing, and home DIY. Introducing the FloorTech 1000 SB. This two-component 1:1 ratio solvent-based epoxy, available in a range of colors, is ideal for commercial, industrial, and residential flooring. The FloorTech 1000 SB is highly resistant to grease and mild chemicals, promising to leave your floors with a non-slip and good abrasion-resistant finish. Next, we have the FloorTech 2000 SB, a floor coating that will give you a smooth and high gloss appearance. A single component solvent-based moisture-cured urethane, which is perfect for workshops, wooden floors, and process plants. This range is available in a clear coat and various colors. With fast drying properties which allow for multiple coats in a single day, traffic just after 2 hours, and no requirement for 2-pack mixing, the FloorTech 2000 SB is a dream come true. The clear coat provides an aesthetically high gloss finish for wooden bar counters and flooring. Then we have the FloorTech 3000 WB, a two-component water-based, environmentally friendly epoxy that gives a semi-gloss finish. Perfect for nuclear and food processing facilities, abattoirs, hospitals, and DIY home use. This easy-to-clean coat is low on odor, zero VOC, and has good chemical and abrasion resistance. Introducing the FloorTech 7SB Concrete Primer Sealer. This penetration primer is used to provide excellent adhesion to concrete. This product can also serve as a sealer coat to provide a dust-free surface. With excellent adhesive properties, the FloorTech 7SB is versatile and can be used for a wide range of Plascon's flooring offering, such as alkyd, epoxy, and polyurethane products. Finally, we have the FloorTech 4000 SF, a high-gloss solvent-free epoxy coat that self-levels to provide a smooth, high-gloss aesthetic finish for showroom floors. Available in standard gray, this low-odor epoxy coat has excellent abrasion and is resistant to a wide range of chemicals, giving a seamless hygienic finish when used in garages, showrooms, and aircraft hangars. Our Plascon flooring product range offers minimal dirt retention, guaranteed to keep your surfaces dust-free and easy to clean. It's crystal clear that we've made it our responsibility to develop trustworthy and reliable products that make people's lives easier. So, what are you waiting for? Get your Plascon FloorTech product range today. For more product info, visit www.plascon.com.
Andre studied architecture at the University of the Free State. And after graduating, he worked for RIT Architects in Bloemfontein and GLH in Johannesburg. In 2015, Andre co-founded 255 Architects with Theo Kruger. And maybe one day you can tell me where you got hold of that name, but nevertheless. Andre leads the design studio at the Johannesburg office. His architectural philosophy revolves around the belief that architecture forms the foundation of all memory. Andre is a family man. He and his wife have 2 sons, and they live in Linden in Johannesburg. Andre, it's a privilege to welcome you to SAIAshare. Thank you once again for accepting the invitation. We look forward with anticipation to your presentation on Uxolo. I think the pronunciation is right, the challenge and the opportunity. So, Andre, it's over to you, and let's hold thumbs that technology will work. All the best.
Awesome. Thank you very much. I can assume everyone can hear me well. I'll start, and thanks for the introduction, Eugene, and to the guys from SAIA for allowing us to do this. It's an honor. I think today, jumping in, just maybe a bit more background about us. We are a fairly young studio. Myself and my partner Theo Kruger head up a team of 11 architects. We all have a bit of history, and ours the same. I think it kind of started with a coffee between myself and Theo in early 2015, and then from there it started snowballing and growing, and we've been blessed with an incredible team up to date. And I think what's really important to point out here is Uxolo in 2019, a project that went to site at that point in time, which had a massive impact on our office, our firm, and the way we actually work. And as a result of this project, we're actually now working across the globe, as far as Portugal, Sweden, Ghana, Porto de Boer, and the various other locations. So just a bit about the urban context of our studio. We're predominantly focused in 3 South African metros, which is Johannesburg, Pretoria, and Cape Town. Theo oversees our Cape Town office. I oversee the Johannesburg and Pretoria office. But we actually function as one office. Even prior to COVID, we have been working online with our staff meetings online since inception in 2015. We have completed a variety of projects since 2015, to be exact, about 119 projects in this period, all within a variety of scales and a variety of sectors. And we're currently undertaking just over 70 projects that we're currently busy with. Today, though, I want to speak about Uxolo or Uxolo specifically, which is a project based in Cape Town, and more specifically based in the inner city. Just some more context for to put it into perspective. So the project is located immediately off Long Street, which is kind of item number 2 and highlighted in the blue line on the screen. This project, being very much inner city, is a project that is very much focused on urban densification, and is something that we as a firm hold near to our hearts and that we're very passionate about. Looking at it from a slightly broader context, the position of it is fairly high up within up Long Street, but it's technically not in Long Street. It's in a little alleyway off of Long Street, which is called Vredenburg Lane, which basically enters in from there, wraps around, and comes back, which I'll show you just now. But it sits higher up, which means from the site, if we were able to go high enough, we would actually be able to achieve spectacular views of not only just the City Bowl, but Table Mountain, Devil's Peak, and Signal Hill, all from one middle building. The project here is, the title of this presentation is called The Challenge and the Opportunity, and I think the primary reason for that is we don't have that many years behind us, but by far this has been the most challenging project we have ever undertaken. And I'm going to branch out on some of those challenges and how each of those challenges actually resulted in opportunity for us to be quite creative and have quite a bit of fun. I think looking at it as first, here you can see the building in its completed state within the context. So in case you're missing it, it's that little one there with the pink balconies. Jumping on, I think here's the site, which was the first really challenging thing we came across. The site itself is 195 square meters. It's a very, very small site. It's this little dark block here. And this little alleyway here is Vredenburg Lane. That is technically a servitude tied to this stand here. And the servitude in itself is the road width is 2.6 meters. And then there's a 800 mil sidewalk component to it, which means no large trucks could enter into this service alley. It meant the closest we could get a concrete pump was about its rear end pushed into the alleyway about 4 meters, and from there it couldn't make the turns anymore. So things like that made it a truly complicated site from the start. But what made it even more complicated is its current location meant that the site came at quite a high price point, and it meant that it needed quite a substantial amount of bulk to be able to be a feasible development within this area. And on 195 squares, that proved quite challenging. So during the demolition process, so we went through a total, I think we actually went through a series of 7 council submissions in total on this project, consistently making various adjustments through the process as we were going through it. During the demolition process, one of the things, I think before we go to the demolition, let me quickly chat here. This is very important to note. The site itself being so small and so difficult to get to, this little dot here indicates exactly how challenging this actually was. We quickly realized the moment we kind of appointed a contractor that we really had no place to put down a crane. The building itself is ground plus 9, so it's a 9-story building effectively. And as a result, we effectively needed some place to put a crane. We did not have the option of putting a crane here as the reach was unacceptable. And further to that, it also meant that if we had a crane here, or if we were able to get a crane lifted over the neighboring buildings, we couldn't quite reach this point because that was just out of reach from either of the 2 sites. So the result being that the developer actually ended up buying the little property next door, which is literally half of the Zolo site, just to be able to put a crane down. That triggered an entire heritage submission to be able to remove the roofing structure of the existing building so that we can build a crane base inside the neighboring building, which in itself was quite a challenging thing. The second thing is from this storage facility on ground floor, Pick n Pay operated their package deliveries, which meant this had a permanent and consistent in and out traffic access permanently from little 3-wheel scooter Ubers coming in and out and in and out. It also meant that we couldn't utilize any of the road space to store material. There were no sidewalks for storing of material, and it resulted in quite a challenging site. So we ended up hiring a empty warehouse just down the alleyway effectively to store building materials. So in a way, this is kind of how all of these things ended up being quite challenging, but in a way it made that we actually then had very good secure storage on site throughout the entire process. It also meant that we ended up with a second project that was completely unplanned by the buying of this one. So in the process of building this one, we actually did the crane base over the entire site as a base for a new 8-story building to follow post the completion of Xolo, and it's currently on the market busy selling. So I think once they reach pre-sales, we'll kick off with the construction of this little block as well. But saying that, it meant we now figured kind of all the conditions to start building, and that brought us to quite an interesting point. So We were sitting in between a variety of heritage buildings just off Long Street with almost minimal access, and we started the demolition process. The site itself, the zoning mixed use too, but within the CBD restrictions, height restrictions, etc., we were allowed to go up the 9 floors we were after. And the moment we started demolishing, we came across something that we weren't expecting. None of our heritage inquisitions, none of the drawings we pulled from council, from heritage archives at all indicated the actual age of the building, and we came across heritage stone as we were excavating and opening up the building. This obviously meant that we immediately halted construction completely. We then did a full heritage impact assessment again, and within this process, we came across only effectively what you see there, that component, and the front facade that we were in any case planning on keeping was effectively constructed out of the heritage stone. Here you can actually see this image on the right. It's after completion. The only remainder of the heritage stone we then kept completely intact, and we opted not to plaster it. So that was just a little added contribution to what we found on site, and we left it exactly as is. During the process, as mentioned, this needed to be a feasible development, so we realized we had to fill the bulk completely, which would effectively be that. How would we do that? It was an interesting situation. We wanted to effectively activate this little alleyway. This alleyway was quite dark. It was quite dangerous. There was a permanent Rasta parked around the corner, and that was the main drug dealer for Long Street. It was quite famous. Even the police bought their drugs there, which made quite an interesting site. And the site conditions were quite interesting. We started off by doing quite a lot about security, adding new lighting, etc., just to the streetscape during construction process. But we realized we wanted to activate the street. So the yellow component we had specifically planned to provide 50% of our floor plate to a restaurant or a coffee shop. The balance, the pink component, was effectively our lobby. And then we had a fire lobby, a staircase, and a lift. So please note that it's a single staircase, 9 floors, and a lift throughout the building. From there, we then opted to divide the floor plate into, again, staircase, lift, fire lobby, passage, 4 units, and on some floors, this is the double mezzanine, and in this case, it was our services. So on the first floor, it was services, I think laundry actually, and the second one, it was the pump rooms and the various other building equipments and backup generators for the lift. To give you an idea of the sizes, these external units are external wall sizes 28 square meters, and the middle one 23 square meters. Usable internal areas coming in at about 25 and 21 square meters between the 4 units. From there, we then filled out and included a double volume mezzanine studio unit at the back, and then we pushed the bulk to the top. And now we were sitting in quite an interesting situation because our site effectively had 3 meter zero building lines. We were on a 0 meter building line, 0 meter building line, and 0 meter building line. So how do we go about creating architecture that's still pleasant and still inviting to actually want to stay in one of these units? I think it's also important to note that during the planning process, Koro was intended to be a Airbnb hotel. It was meant to be kind of what the Nagasaki Pod Towers is for Tokyo, or any of these kind of high destination Airbnb hotels. It was supposed to have a single concierge, and it was sold to the open market as an Airbnb hotel as for investors to purchase a unit that would form part of a managed building. So that was where our original planning started from. That's also why we gave rise to the fairly small size, and the location lended itself ideally to kind of that building typology. But we were sitting now with a building that filled the bulk, met the requirements. It was ticking the box of a feasible model, but 3 meters with no windows and a small little block at the front wasn't very exciting and appealing to us. And then we started looking at alternatives. How can we actually, on a 0 meter building line, introduce glazing into a facade without losing any square meters? And we ended up settling on glass bricks that are obviously fire rated, as opposed to normal windows, which was the solution we came up with. And then I think at that stage, we also realized that we want to kind of encroach to an extent on the street boundary and extend a little balcony as an architectural protrusion. And at that point, they started off as little squares, just the idea, but then we started playing with facade and design concepts. And as we were playing with facade and design concepts, the primary thing that came up that, and I can maybe show you a bit more of that, is the glass brick that we ended up sourcing was almost the size of an imperial brick, but it wasn't quite. And the only way we could actually get this brick to match the imperial Coro brick size was to actually turn it on its side in a soldier bond, which meant that from left to right, every 4th course we had it lining up, and top to bottom, every 8th course we had it lining up. And there you can actually see it on these renders that we had them lined up like this versus horizontally and vertically. And because of that, we were in a situation, but how do we actually start framing this facade? It was far too expensive to actually go and glaze the entire side of this building in glass bricks. So we knew we had to break it down. And we also knew that given the constraints of the site, we could not actually go and have glass bricks all around the building, but also we needed something that was completely maintenance free, because the only facade we would ever be able to really service was the street facade if there was any other development in the future. Saying that, it's important to note that we risked the glass facade on the majority of the building because we knew one, the status of the heritage building next to us. It meant that the likelihood of there ever being a tall development on this stand was slim to none. We also knew now that we were the architects and planners of the building on the site next door, which means as we go through the images, you'll see the glass bricks on this side of the building actually start, and that was also on levels, which was intentional. And back there's at the glass bricks to anyone in front of them. So
Andre,
zero maintenance thing then came into play, which is why we settled on face brick. And
Andre, we couldn't hear the past 30 seconds. Don't you just want to repeat what you said?
Perfect. I'm back again. I'm not 100% sure where I lost everyone, but let me backtrack 2 seconds. So I think the result for us at the end of the day was quite a complicated pattern to combine a glass brick that is a slightly different scale and proportion to a face brick to find corresponding joints. This was actually quite challenging at the end of the day, because although the glass brick gives itself over as a weight-bearing element within a facade like this with quite a lot of movement, it did not tick all the boxes that our engineers were after. So you'll notice that actually looking here, a majority of these glass bricks are supported by the face bricks below them. But then the other half of it, the face bricks themselves, were not supported by the glass bricks. They were actually suspended by steel hangers, which was quite a complicated process in the end of the day. But we were thrilled about it, and we stuck to our guns and started constructing this project. So I kind of mentioned to you that what was happening on the floor plate and alluded to it, but you'll notice that we have these fire lobbies with these self-closing doors, kind of a lift and staircases coming up into the central passageway. And then we have this mezzanine loft unit to the back, which repeats itself 3 times in the building. And then our 4 standard units that repeats itself effectively 9 times in the building. So to put that in perspective, it's 35 apartments on 195 square meters of stand. This included our refuge area, a restaurant, it's the necessary bathrooms, a little storage alley at the back, reception, and bicycle storage and bicycle storage room. Then I think what I can show you just a bit more is this is already the adapted version of the scheme, but originally these units were planned to kind of have a little kitchenette, a bed and a TV and maybe a lounging chair, not much more than what you would typically have in an Airbnb or hotel room for that matter. What then happened, which was quite a interesting scenario or interesting thing to happen, is COVID happened. We were on level 7 during construction when we went into COVID. This in itself had a variety of challenges. The first challenge being that the contractor that we had appointed at this time, we very soon realized was in financial distress. We had an electrical subcontractor that was owed just over $1 million. We had a plumber owed over 600,000. We had a variety of our subcontractors that were underpaid where the principal contractor was paid. It meant that during the hard lockdown time, we very quickly made the decision to actually terminate the agreement with the principal contractor, as we didn't see a likelihood that he would be able to successfully complete this project. Us as architects, we were also involved in the development management of the scheme, which as a result ended that rather than we quickly went into negotiations with a local contractor we had a bit of connection with, and we realized that if we were to appoint another contractor, we would be almost 8 or 9 million rand short of where we needed to be, which is quite a lot on a 19 million rand budget point. Saying that, we then made a decision to actually continue with the construction ourselves, and we as the architects actually appointed a construction manager. We went through the whole process of onboarding a site manager and everything within that scope, and we negotiated with the various subcontractors and included them in the process going forward. So we were also then the principal contractor on the project, which had its own challenges, I can tell you that. But the primary challenge which then happened was when the hotel market was under incredible distress, it suddenly meant that no one wanted an Airbnb hotel, which meant of the 26 pre-sales we had within the scheme, only 3 remained after the COVID time, which meant everyone pulled out. So as a developing entity, they were sitting with a incredible high loan to value, which was based on the fact that they had pre-sales at pre-COVID prices. So one of these smaller units was selling for about 1.3, 1.4 million, and 1.6 for the slightly bigger one, and then about 1.8 for the loft unit, going up to about 2. Post-COVID, to give you an idea, I think the highest sale in the building was about 1.1 million. So income-wise, it was a major shift from where it was intended to be. But then I think the primary challenge was suddenly there was no market for an Airbnb hotel. So the scheme in itself had to change completely from an Airbnb hotel to apartments, which meant that we specifically were quite adamant about providing everything within a 23 square meter unit that you would need to comfortably live every day, which meant we needed a dining area, we needed a lounge, we needed a kitchen, we needed enough cupboard space, we needed a study area, and we obviously needed a bed sleeping area. As generous as we are, we decided it cannot even be just a double bed or a single bed, it has to be a queen size bed. And those are kind of the parameters that we set ourselves. So we wanted the kitchens to be, to an extent, fairly functional. And we started this design process of designing this unit that would kind of within 23 square meters house everything that we were after. We created a unit that we sent out to joinery prices, and with the budget already constrained, we already needed to save about 2.3 million before we even started with the process of joinery, and the joinery budget originally allowed for like a little kitchenette and a small little built-in cupboard. Now suddenly we wanted to do a whole lot more within that same budget, and it became effectively completely impossible. And so we opted to do kind of the only thing we thought we could do. And so we had this challenge in front of us. So we created this brand called Kink Design, and we used it as an opportunity. And then we started prototyping, and we started making, manufacturing, producing effectively kitchens and cupboards and everything for this building completely from scratch during our hard lockdown. So this is what we were doing during hard lockdown. We had architects sitting at their desks and doing laser cut bending schedules for a variety of kitchen components. And we started creating all of these various modules. Everything made out of steel components that would effectively be laser cut, galvanized, and powder coated, and then basically shipped to site in loose components. Because of the constraints of the site, we knew we couldn't carry a fully built BIC up a flight of stairs 9 stories. So we figured we might as well assemble them inside the units. So we designed everything to be flat backed and modular. So we then went into this process of designing it, and you can see kind of the sheer volume. To put it into perspective, each unit in Uzolo has 1,420 unique parts, of which we produce that 35 times effectively over 35 units. And within those variety of unique parts, we designed everything so that we do not use any nuts. So everything is either a clinch nut or a riv nut, or the steel itself is tapped, and which meant we're only driving screws. So we planned it in a way that we, as far as possible, could use only exactly the same little machine screw, of which we used 55,000 screws to assemble the various kitchens and everything on site, and I'll show you a bit more what that looked like. But you can see even here on this little image, these openings in the side of the side panels, basically on the modules, we actually use these openings to cut other components out of them, so to reduce our waste, to have minimal material usage, to actually make the parts lighter. So we went through an incredible R&D process of fine-tuning, and the funniest part is that when we finally placed the order, we actually never once built a full prototype. So we were holding thumbs because based on the program, we had to obviously move to get this all done. But here you can start seeing it all come together. So you'll notice everything from our plugs and our sockets are actually cut in and pre-made and pre-planned. This is Stefan, he's one of the senior associates in our company. This is Nico, one of the architects in our company. And the entire Uzolo apartments was effectively built by Nico and Stefan on their knees with drills in their hands, start to finish, assisted by only 4 laborers, effectively assembling all of the kitchen's joinery throughout the process. So this resulted in a unique system. You can imagine with that amount of parts, we needed to create some way for us to be able to manage this complexity on site. So we created an icon system. So you can see this is example, the icon for the oven unit. And then the oven unit had part G, K, P, whatever it may be. And then we had some universal parts that would kind of apply to all of the different ones. And here you can see this is actually a part that acts as a faceplate for our plug system. So we used modular power points and plug systems, and all we had the electricians do was quite nice. We had them wire everything into a loose, completely sealed plastic 2x4 box, and on a flex cord, and so there was no chasing. It meant that we could come and easily maneuver the plug points within the joinery itself. So we went into quite a lot of detail planning everything on this instance, and we had quite a lot of fun as well, creating little sliders for everything from cutlery. We had some fun with handles and custom handles and messages and things like that we've played with before. And then we also had this zero waste mentality throughout this entire process. So by the time we got to the lobby, we figured we might as well either make something new or reuse what we already had. So This, for example, is some of the leftover lighting components from the units itself that we kind of reused within the lobby space. These balconies we also made and manufactured ourselves, and this little blue component here, like I think most architects, we sometimes do miss something, and in this case it was the door release sensor that we forgot to allow a conduit for, and which meant we had to hide it loop it from there to one closer by. We didn't actually forget, it was just there at the back and it was unreachable, so we wanted it to the front, but and we wanted to kind of not need it to chase into the concrete column, which is that. So we ended up using some of these leftover materials to kind of start creating these kind of details to house the release sensor. One of the other really interesting components of this project was the fact that with the moment we started playing with these glass bricks, the moment we were waiting for is to see this building at night and to see how it would light up. And we kind of had this concept of almost a lantern within the inner city, kind of bringing light to a strip that was really dark, mostly used for drugs and things like that. And we wanted this building to really be a beacon, to really be something that would activate a section of Long Street that is kind of not so great. And so during our planning for the lighting, we decided rather than just a few lights down the center, we would like to light up this entire facade. And the cost of that was exuberant. It was far too much to buy off-the-shelf LED strip lighting and housing. So we also then decided to manufacture it. So what's actually happening here is we created a housing that a normal T5 LED batten, so those replacement kind of under-counter battens, could actually just rest in. And in that manner, we actually, to put a price to it, just to understand it, it's almost an 8-meter long linear, and the total cost to the development as a whole was 1,300 Rand per linear, including the lights and the manufacturing of the steel supply to site. So in that way, we really tried to then create something that we could use to effectively light the building as a whole, but then also provide sufficient internal lighting to the scheme. And then here is kind of what our end product started looking like. And you'll notice all the small little details, like even cutting in the cutlery. And what's quite amazing is because we kind of still stuck to almost the standard 600 modules, but suddenly instead of using two sides of 16 mil and another 16 mil plus the runner plus the 16 mil on the drawer carcass, we were losing a complete total of the 12 mil of the runner plus another 2 mil and another 2 mil. So which meant our 600 module was actually hellishly effective in the amount of storage that it created. And here you can see we actually have a integrated fridge into this module, oven integrated storage above, and then we have quite a sufficient amount of storage, all of them with internal drawers hiding items. Because of the efficiency and the thinness of the steel, we were actually able to do a very complete, very deep cutlery drawer immediately under our hob without it interfering. And I think what was amazing for us is we realized some of the potential here. We didn't necessarily stop there. We went quite far in everything from our wayfinding signage, and I'm not sure that we added a photo of it, but you'll see even our numbers, we painted them quite big and we wrapped them up onto the floor, but we even cut the tiling so that the number continues on the tiles and the floors. We played quite a lot with a variety of languages, even given the building's name, Tolo. We introduced a variety of languages within the building and quite a bit of color. We used these transition spaces to really not only experiment, but to have a bit of fun. And the only hope we really had was that someone would actually just smile as they move through these spaces. One of the really interesting things that happened as we were going through the units, most of them, there's actually, I'm just showing you two here, but there's four different color combinations we had this kind of oxblood and white color combination and the white and green color combination. But then there was also a unit that was completely white, and when you opened it, it was like this ultramarine blue. And then we had a black and pink unit as well. And most of these units had corresponding floor colors. So the black and pink unit actually also had a pink floor, and I'll see if I can find a photo of that. But in the process, somewhere someone made a mistake, and we were short a vinyl. And as a result, when we were doing this unit, we could either delay the process quite substantially, or we decided, but perhaps we have enough offcuts from the other units, because these units are only so wide, they're actually shorter than what the rolls were. So we then did this flooring at a 45-degree angle within some of the units, specifically to kind of use the shortage of material that we had. And if you actually look closely, you can actually pick up that some of them are slightly lighter and some are a bit more gray, because they actually come from a variety of products. And I think here you can see Xolo in its completed state, which is something that we are truly proud of. It was an incredible achievement for us and a real push, not only emotionally, but actually physically as well, because I think it's the only project that we have ever ourselves assembled on site and actually built, and it will probably be the last. But it was an incredible learning experience for us, and with the variety of challenges that we presented, we actually had so much fun trying to come up with creative solutions to solve these challenges. One example that I can show you, which is quite interesting, is our original detail for the doors, because you can imagine we've got 600, 200, 200, and 200, so almost 660 total in between these doors, which do not comply to fire requirements. But because they were cavity walls, we originally set back those doors to the far inner side of the wall itself, which meant that if we take the reveal into account, we ended up with exactly 1 meter separation. That was all good and well up until the point where the subcontractor installed all of them flush to the outside, which then resulted in the addition of little steel windows around, little steel boxes all around all the windows, and fire separation panels down there in the middle that I think most people actually don't necessarily pick up, but hence the reason for all of these little add-ons as we go. And I think what's quite amazing for us is how, since its completion, it's always really become a part of Cape Town, and it's become an identifying characteristic. And if you can ask any Uber driver to drop you at the building with the pink balconies, and they'll know exactly where he needs to go. And yeah, since its completion, it's been a key factor in the success of our practice. It's resulted in a variety of new work for us, and at the end of the day, we are really, really very proud of it. And here you can see what I meant about the eastern facade having more brickwork because of the next building that is about to come. And then there's just a small little video that I would like to play. So I think in conclusion, what is really amazing for me is that we actually had the privilege of staying in these units, and Thea, my business partner, actually stayed there for an entire year just to kind of test the concept to see if it's really possible for a person to permanently live in a 23 square meter unit. And it was a great success up until the point that he got married. Then it became too small. But up until that point, it was actually amazing. And the process of designing our own custom Murphy bed, going up and down with a sofa beneath it and storage inside there, all of that was really amazing for us. And to see it actually being used and enjoyed now is fantastic. And yeah, thank you very much.
Great. Andre, I have no doubt that everyone who's attended this presentation is absolutely astounded by what you've done. Thanks, brilliant. And the accolades are just coming in. I'd love to be able to spend some time chatting to you about this, and I'm sure that our audience would love to interact with you. But colleagues, you will recognize that it was far more fascinating and better value for money to actually watch what Andre has been able to present to us. And I can only say thank you very, very much for sharing this super special journey that you traveled on with SAIAshare, Andre. Colleagues, on your behalf, once again, thank you to Marie as well. What we're going to do, we have overrun our time, but what we're going to do is we're going to conclude this SAIAshare. It's going to take another 3 or 4 minutes to conclude, and then Andre has kindly agreed to a 10-minute Q&A session at the end of SAIAshare. So for those of you who've still got 10 minutes to spend with us, we're going to answer the questions then that that have come through in the comments while Andre was presenting. Once again, Marie and Andre, 2 exceptional presentations, and we thank you so much. We also thank our gracious sponsors, Plascon, for making this possible. Plascon will be holding their next webinar on the 26th of September on their specialized floor tech coatings. As already mentioned, SAIAshare comes with a category 1 CPD value of 0.1. I trust you enjoyed the event as much as I did. We invite you to join us again on the first Friday of October. That's the 6th of October, when we will host another 2 exciting presentations on SAIAshare. AJ Corbett, who's an architect down in the Eastern Cape, will be sharing with us on how they managed to construct 49 schools in as many weeks. He will be sharing a management tool methodology that they've developed for this. I'm sure you'd love to see that. He's willing to share it with us. And then Jonathan Noble, who's a professor, I believe, down in the Free State. He's an architect and academic. What is design research and why it matters? So please join us in a month's time. We're going to leave you with a thought for today. Today, as you know, is Spring Day. There's something very special about spring. Leo Tolstoy was correct when he wrote, "Spring is the time of plans and projects." And we wish you many plans and many new projects as we hit spring and the summer to follow. So that concludes SAIAshare for September. But as I say, we're going to go straight into a session where we're going to address the questions that that were posed to Andre. So if you can stay, please do so. And Andre, may I ask, will you please, and Marie, you're also welcome, but Andre in particular, please. Yeah, there we are. We got your camera on. Right, now I must just get to the bottom of these questions because there are quite a number of them that came through. Move through them quickly. Okay, Johan start with Johan starts. Despite the technological challenges, this is a top-tier presentation and the content positively enthralling. David John says, interesting and costly. Over what time span was this project done? Andre, if you'd like to answer that.
Sure, definitely. So we started with the initial demolition works in November of 2019. And then we obviously hit COVID in March by the time we were already on the 7th slab. Then the target was to finish it by December the same year, 2020. And I'm glad to say that we actually managed to do that. And I think the only way possible to have done that was actually with the steel joinery that we actually ended up making. Out of pure interest, the exact same design. So obviously that module had a built-in cupboard. I didn't show it, but inside the built-in cupboard, there's a desk that pulls up, becomes your study desk as well. And it actually integrates all your plug points and everything inside the built-in cupboard. And then it was the Murphy bed lounge component, the kitchen component, and then storage as well as the built-in fridge. But that whole process, making that for each unit, we were actually in under the original joinery budget, which was just meant for so we went down this process for cost-saving purposes, and because it was the most expensive component was actually the labor of architects on site. So it was quite unique that was our cost-saving point. I think as a product to the open market, if we were not doing it for ourselves, it would be more expensive than conventional timber joinery. But because of the speed that we were able to do it with, and because of the precision and coordination that we were able to do it, it became a affordable process. And more so than, to give you an idea, it was about 2.5 million cheaper than the best joinery tender we were able to get in.
Yeah. Correct. Okay, Andre, Anup, Megan says, due to the unique custom parts and accessories employed, what was the plan for future maintenance and replacements? Was that relevant, considered?
Yes, it is relevant and it is considered, and it's a very important question. During the process, we effectively, as I mentioned, it was Stefan and Nico, two of our architects, and myself every now and then on site. And during this process, we were only working with 4 casual laborers, of which 2 really showed promise and are now effectively permanently employed by the development to ensure all mates. And these guys were able to understand the product fully and completely. So one of them is called Howard. He's actually the permanent, let's call it, maintenance man of Uxolo, and he's completely familiar with the entire process because he assembled most of the kitchens themselves. And what's quite nice, because it's so modular, all the parts that could potentially get damaged, it's simply taking a small little handheld screwdriver to site and just unscrewing 4 screws and replacing that one part. So it actually was a fairly solvable maintenance issue.
Great, wonderful. Francois Goddard, he asked the question, glass bricks only provide natural light. How did you ventilate the units?
So good question. So if you notice on the front facade, there's obviously the door, and then there's a tiny little window on the front facade to the front street. And then from the bathrooms themselves, they obviously only had glass bricks, so they were mechanically extracted and fresh air provided to them. And then something we did in conjunction with the mechanical engineers is we provided a bit of an undercut to the bathroom doors so that we can create a lot more ventilation through the small window at the front. Oh.
Okay, great. China Dum Room. I apologize. I'm not getting your name or surname correct. He says, why did you say this will be the last?
I can honestly tell you that was because we obviously had quite a bit of skin in the game. It was an incredibly emotionally tolling time on everyone at 255. I think we were really blessed because we didn't go through any. We managed to keep the bulk of our staff during this process, which was really amazing for us. But it also, apart from the financial constraints, the actual process of, and I think if we spend some time and we actually build a whole company around it, but the logic is we want to focus on what we do best, and we think that's architecture at the moment. So that's why probably the last. Yeah.
Then just remind Chinadum on the material used for the balconies.
So the balconies, the actual base of it is a small little cantilevered concrete base of 1 meters by 1 meters. And then we used 3CR12 steel, which is something in between mild steel and stainless steel, which we then, as added protection, zinc plated as well. So we laser cut the balconies, and then they were hand painted on site with a color fast paint. Yeah.
Okay, great, thanks. Eliane Lichi says your work is inspirational. Jacobus Conradi wants to know the obvious. What about parking?
There's no parking, so it's a PT. It's one of the PT zones in Cape Town that doesn't require any parking. The intention being that it originally was an Airbnb hotel. We opted for a scheme without parking, as most people would arrive by Uber. Currently, we actually have a few permanent tenants in the building, not owners in the building, that actually live and own in there. None of them actually do have cars, which is quite amazing. And not because of not being able to afford them, because it's, I think, the way of life they chose. And then there are some guys in the building that actually do have cars, and there's permanently cars in that alleyway of people that stay within the area. Oh.
Okay, great, thanks. Ivan says, brilliant. Thank you, Ivan. Anup thanks you as well, Andre, and Paul Boshoff. Well done, Andre, and your team. Dani Ramos, architecture, design, food for the soul. Vivian says, thank you, very astounding. Oliver Henning asked the question, cost per unit. I think you did address that, but any?
So the pre-COVID price, I think the units were selling at 740,000 for the cheapest unit, up to about 1.1 million. That's post-COVID. Pre-COVID was a completely
Okay. Thanks for the compliment, Pernille Martin. Awesome and very fascinating. Jaco de Wet, great work, Andre. Andre Odendaal, some great challenges overcome with clever and careful detailing. George Boersma, well done. Internal, fit out, fantastic. Albie Meyer, did the design need to satisfy some sort of parking requirement? We dealt with that. Athol Pugan, thank you, Andre. Henry De Silva, great response to a challenging brief. Johan Els, brilliant. Freddie Mulder, thank you, Andre. It was very interesting. Tooting Alice says, Andre, what an incredible presentation. Thank you for sharing, very inspirational. And then someone wants to speak to you about it's Chinadum Emeritus needs some advice from you. Chinadum, I suggest you contact Kurina, and she can put you on to Andre. Helena, is this a recorded session? Yes, it's recorded, and it will be properly edited and become available within the next few weeks, I would assume, Karina. Steve Archer, well done, has left. Ian Winfred, that is amazing. I am working in London and want the presentation with the office, want to share the presentation with the office. So Ian, you can access it online through SAIA's website or ECPD. John Bizinos also compliments. Thank you, Andre. Another thought, Andre, another thought, Vivian Hobbs, another thought, Neil Martin, another one, compliments all the way. So, colleagues, I think that that concludes the question session, and that also, Andre, concludes